on YouTube. Background noise, and that stream is going. We've got Dan going there. Let's ping off the Periscope with Regarding Office 365 going live there. And sending off the tweet. Certainly not as polished because I don't have OBS going. Got to figure out how to do that with Pixup. How you going, Dan?
Doing well. How about you?
All right.
Yeah, breakfast?
As you can see, I'm juggling things. Yeah, I've had breakfast. Have you had dinner?
I have, yeah.
Oh, sweet. Well, welcome to Regarding Office 365, the Msg Center of the week that was. This is Darrell, this is Sevis, and
Daniel Glenn.
Daniel Glenn. And excuse the delay, everyone, as we're communicating, because it's not just the distance from Central America to Auckland, New Zealand now. It's gone a little bit further to the east, and that would be actually west. That's in Sydney, Australia, if you can tell by my background.
Yeah.
So, Dan, what time is it there at the moment?
Normally it's Americans that have the issue with geography, but anyway, we're 9 p.m. Here in my time zone, in the wonderful eclipse zone, as I've called it today. Right.
Well, that's something that I wanted to ask you about, because we were going to do this at the regular time of such and such, and you were going to be at work doing it, but what had changed? Tell us a bit about that eclipse.
Yeah, Nashville is where I live, Middle Tennessee. It was the largest city. Nashville, Tennessee was the largest city in the total eclipse zone in the U.S. today. So
wow.
They were expected to have a few 100,000 extra people here to view it. And anyway, so I did not want to go into the office because of all those other people that were here. There was traffic issues all across the city. So I stayed home and did the eclipse here at the house. So I have a picture to share. So we can, when I switch over to sharing my desktop to show some things, I'll show a picture of it. But it was pretty cool.
Is it all ready to go? Is it all ready to go? Because
yeah.
I mean, feel free to share it now if you want.
Sure, I can do that. And
so while you're queuing that up, so yeah, this is a slightly weird-ish kind of layout. As you can see, I've got the Sydney Opera House and the bridge behind me, and I've got my camera over here. And oh my goodness, that is an awesome picture. Did you take that?
I did, yes. So we've got in the middle, of course, we have the moon covering up the sun, and then off to the left a little bit is actually Venus. So got to see Venus while we were looking at the eclipse. Yeah. So this is probably one of the better pictures that I took of the total eclipse, but there's a few others, and I'll scroll real quickly, and I'm sorry about this quickly scrolling, but there's some really cool pictures of when it started coming back out and clouds started coming over. So this one I've stopped on here is pretty slick too. So yeah, it was actually a good time.
It's a rare event, really, isn't it, when you get that full eclipse? But you're pretty lucky too there to see to Venus as part of that event.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Oh, so, great.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so did that affect any bandwidth? I mean, it's not the same as a solar flare, is it?
No. It was interesting. I think the only thing out of the norm was they were showing the local zoo, and apparently the giraffes went kind of crazy when it went dark. But other than that, it was just a few moments of darkness, and we were back. So it's all
awesome.
Good.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing those pictures there, Dan. That's we'll have to grab a copy or two, or you can share it maybe via Twitter, and
I will.
if you haven't already. Cool. Thanks, man. So let's just get on with the Msg Center, I guess. And I'll just share my screen.
Yep.
Grab that. Okay, now this is going to be a slight juggle, people, as you're watching and as I'm recording, because I have a number of screens to juggle, and I don't have my multiple monitors, because back home I've got my laptop down here, I've got a screen that I'm presenting from up there, and I've got one in a kind of a portrait mode where I can manage all the different streams and check things out. So how's that coming through there, Dan?
No, it looks great. Yep.
Cool. All right. So Msg Center, the week that was August the 14th. This is kind of working out, isn't it? We've got the dates all kind of lined up, and people can talk about the week as it's just been.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. The only thing is, we normally get something released on the day we do this. So as you can see there, there's one up there that we'll discuss next week. But other than that, it does, I think, work out pretty well.
Yeah. And, I think that's a teaser in a way of like, you can go look at that yourself, which is really one of the purposes about this show, isn't it? It's about creating awareness for the Msg Center.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So the announcements, of course, we discovered they differ. So you and I will point that out as we go. But let's take a quick look at that first one from the bottom up. First in, first out. And that first announcement we have is reminding us that there's going to be a change in the alternate email address for the Msg Center Weekly Digest. Do you get the digest, Stan?
I do. I get the digest. I think I mentioned that in the first show we did together. I actually like those weekly digests to remind me of what's going on and, if I haven't checked lately. So I like the digest. I think this is and I think you said this in the post as well. This is great for letting us know. Appreciate it. I don't see it as a big deal, but, thanks for letting us know. That's kind of my response to that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can get into that a bit further along. We still kind of have questions around what should and shouldn't appear in the Msg Center.
Right.
This one I think is important in the sense that if you do have two addresses in the delivery of that Msg Center, that's a Sydney Seagull for you. They don't respect live streaming, but they do add their own streaming.
Nice.
Thank you, Birdie. So yeah, having that alternate address in there means that you can deliver it to a distribution list. And I think I like the way that they mentioned that you should probably also deliver it to something like an Office 365 group. So if you've got a group that's together for administration and working together from an IT perspective, then you can have discussions around these emails, can't you?
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think you need to remove single user emails in anything when it comes to administration. What happens when that person leaves the company? You don't want to lose that communication. You should be using a group here that's my suggestion. I fully agree. Use a group so that your administrators can talk about, these announcements. How are we going to plan this? What do we need to do to in our environment to notify our users, et cetera? So. Yeah.
I think that is the strength of the Office 365 group, and whatever platform you've chosen. So I see potentially that they've recommended sending it to an Office 365 group for distribution. They're probably insinuating Outlook as that method. But if you have got a Microsoft team in a channel that you might want to deal with these sorts of announcements, then you can use the email address. You can push straight into that channel, can't you?
Yeah, that's right. And you can do that. My personal opinion on this, since, hey, I'm a co-host here, I can give an opinion, right?
Sure.
This is, I would stick with email only because as far as using Outlook to receive those and transfer that into a team if you want to. Because what happens when Teams or any technology comes out of the favor of being used, and email is this thing we've had for a very long time, and we, in my opinion, will still have it for a very long time from now. So I would myself use Outlook to receive those emails, but you most certainly could use Teams to your Teams email address to receive that, as well as other things. So the whole point is work how you need to work for your group. So if your group is in Teams already, do it.
Right. Yeah, I think I can potentially see some nesting going on there too. You could sort of push it out to both an email address list and then make the Teams address a member or something. I guess one comment I think we had from the show last time was that you and I, when we start talking, we can go on and on about just one message. So
yeah,
we should probably keep it moving along.
Yes, we should.
But yeah, plenty of ideas around that. Right, working further up the list. Enable and disable button for certificate authority I left this one in from my own tenant, so we can just pass over this one, but I still have Intune enabled.
Right. Yeah, I just said moving right along. We can go to the next one.
Yeah, moving right along.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll just dismiss that one. Okay, so it goes back down the list. What's this one? Come on. Okay. Funny, you can dismiss it. Let's try this. Aha, all right. Office 365 groups, unique mail nickname. Now, you're really more on the SharePoint side of it, Dan, but do you have much to do with Exchange and the messaging side of provisioning groups?
Not as much. Obviously, it comes into play when you are creating groups. But it's not I'm in the, like you said, SharePoint and, Flow and Power Apps and Power BI kind of side. And so Exchange is not my forte, but, it definitely comes into play when you have these names that are, duplicates, and you've got to be careful when you're naming and using them with groups.
I found this one interesting because I think it only really comes up at scale when you're synchronizing an Active Directory. Because if you're using the user interface, the admin interface for creating a group, there isn't really anywhere that you could adjust that. It happens, right?
Yep.
Mail nickname is created. So it's really when you're synchronizing attributes where it's more likely to have this clash of having the same mail nickname.
Right.
So if you've got people that are working with the Active Directory side of it and they've come across this situation when you're synchronizing large directories, and you might have people that are creating groups from the Office 365 experience at the same time, there's potential for those nicknames to clash. And it's as serious enough as preventing the delivery of messages. Interesting.
That's right. Yep.
So there's how long are we into it? We're into it by, 2014 is when Office 365 groups came out. We're now 2017, and they're fixing mail nickname clashes. Interesting.
Interesting. We could go on and on.
Yeah. Let's go further up the list. The last one that I have in my list, and apparently you don't have it in yours, the expiring groups for Office 365 groups. So, but do you know about this, Dan? Like, have you heard about what it's about?
Yeah, and I think may have mentioned this before, but it is something that was announced, and I was very surprised that it wasn't in my tenant. I'm assuming that it will be, but it's nice to have this expiring groups, but there are some gotchas in there I've seen people talk about that certain content is not actually deleted when this happens. I don't know if that's
really?
a feature or a bug. Right. Yeah. No, it's the SharePoint site, I think, doesn't get deleted automatically right now. I think that's right. Don't quote me on that.
Oh,
we'll
no, I
fix
won't
this in
quote you.
post.
YouTube will quote you.
That's right. We'll
Fix
fix
it in
this in
post?
post. We'll edit it out.
No such thing, man. We're live.
But I think I saw something about. No, I know I saw someone mentioning that it actually doesn't delete everything, and I believe it doesn't delete the SharePoint site. I'll double check on that, and I'll do a post on it.
Right. Well, that's strange because, if you go through the deletion process, and I can only assume that it's leveraging PowerShell commands in the background to delete things, it usually forward syncs and deletes the different services that are related to it. And it goes in so far as much as when you go into additional information in this article, it tells you about how to restore an Office 365 group if it is deleted by this expiry process. Might just bring that up, actually.
Oh, the additional information link. I love that link. Oh, I love that link.
Okay.
I got too excited there. Sorry.
Well, no, it's something that I'm waiting to see in the roadmap, right? So sometimes the roadmap has an item, but then it doesn't have anything to click through and see what to talk about. Maybe they've got blog posts in the background. Sometimes it just goes off to some generic page. But yeah, let's blow that up a bit. We can still do this from here. That should come through a bit better with 125%. We are going to see that experience in Azure AD. So you can go through and set the expiry there. We did mention a few things last week. I think that's right. It was Victor Willem who said that be careful as you enable this, because if you haven't made the right choices here, such as leaving it on enable the expiry for all, then it goes ahead and deletes them. So I'd say that when it says group lifetime in days is 180, if you've created a group 2 years ago and you leave it to set all to delete all, then it's going to go through and find those and based on the creation date.
Yeah, and I don't think it automatically deletes them when you turn them on like that first time, but I think it does send out all the notifications all at once.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what happened. And so if you have 100 of them, then you're going to get 100 emails saying this is about to be deleted, and then get 100 emails the next the reminder period. So I believe you're pretty safe on it's not going to automatically delete it, but you will get all of those notifications at once. Yep.
Okay, geez. Well, yeah, okay. Not as bad as I thought, but still, you get spammed. So it sounds like it'll send that warning message based on the lifetime. And then once it's sent that message, I'm just imagining this workflow, it then kicks off a warning period, a grace period that I'm going to go and delete it in a certain number of days. Where is it? 30 days, 15 days, and 1 day. Yeah. Okay. So I like the choice that it has there about using selected groups. So that would be my preference, that you have more control over that, and you can add the groups that you wish to expire. How do you see this might work in some of your customer scenarios?
I actually would prefer it the other way. I would rather have selected not ones to expire, because I think the list of the ones that I want to think about expiring is going to be longer than the ones I want to keep safe. Now, if you're using this, though, to have short-lived groups for projects, for instance, then I understand how that you could argue that no, I want to fire up a project site, a group, and add the group in there, and I get that, but that's got to be part of your workflow. Of if you put selected here, when I create a group for that project, one of the things I have to do is come in here and add it there.
Yeah, so it's in preview, right? So there's going to be a bunch of feedback about this feature. We've already talked a little about it, and I'm sure there's plenty to be talked about in the tech community. A lot of people saying, oh, yes, finally we've got this feature. My feedback or feature request would be that you can set the expiry based on metadata. So you can put a tag in there to say that this is a project and it's a certain type of project and it'll expire after so many days of inactivity. Hey, Lee, come on over. Just pausing on that. You're not probably going to see much, but I'm doing a live stream at the moment with Daniel Glenn on the Office 365 Message Center. This is Lee Stevens. He's another speaker at the Digital Workplace Conference, which I'll tell you a little about further along.
Hello, goodbye.
Catch you later. Few people in town. Yeah, so the inverse, you see what I mean? Like, rather than saying expire it, how about we, based on creation date, what about inactivity date?
Yeah, and I think, right, so having multiple options there would be nice to say, whether it's been inactive or my project end date is this, give me notification after that. So I don't see it happening. I don't think, at release, I don't see it happening. I see, we're seeing this a lot with all these features. It's going to do one thing or one way. It may get better, but don't count on it having multiple, and those are different, whether it's inactive or a metadata field, or even, it could even be a field here to say this group, this date, is the target date, I guess. I don't know. It probably won't be there, but it would be nice to be able to have more control.
Yeah. That there's probably been a lot of work to get it to this point. Often, it gets either some brutal feedback or like tons of feedback saying this is what's required or this is what we'd like to see. So maybe 6 to 10 months more, and we might see a few more things added there. Any last thoughts about that one before I hand over to you for the messages that were different in your center?
Nope, that's all I got.
That's all I got, man.
That's all I got.
All right, well, let's hand over the screen to. Are you going to share what you've got as the difference, or have you got a list of things? Sweet. Okay.
Let me know when you can see it.
Okay, I'll switch on back to the exit screen so I can actually see you. Oh, there's Dan. All right. Yep. So you got to get into that good habit that I have of dismissing them, man. They go off to an archive.
I know.
Tidy up your Msg Center.
Oh my! Whoa! You're one of those that likes to have your inbox completely clear, aren't you?
No. I'll share a screenshot of that later. I've got a very, very healthy large number of unread messages.
So the first one is OneDrive and SharePoint Online Sharing Experiences Sync Client. So this is following up on communication from April about the improving and updating of sharing experience in OneDrive and SharePoint. And we looked at the sharing experience before, but this has just showed up in my tenant. So this is one of those differences that we had. Basically, what we're going to see is the first rollout to first release customers, the new update for syncing in the client. So syncing in Windows File Explorer and the Mac OS Finder will have that same sharing experience that's in the new sharing experience that's in OneDrive for Business and SharePoint. So thoughts on this, Darrell?
Well, I'm seeing that sharing dialogue when I go to OneDrive and when I try and share a file from there or from a document library in SharePoint. I don't expect to see the dialogue. Oh, actually, no, I have seen it in Windows. And I think it's driven by the OneDrive client and not necessarily what I was assuming was going to be part of the creators update, it actually just pops like a little web dialogue. Is that what you see?
That's right. Yep, that's right. And so it's not out yet. I haven't gotten it, but that is exactly what's happened. It's going to be the context menu for when you go to share in Windows File Explorer, and then when you're in Mac OS, when you go to share command, you're able to get that context menu that'll be that looks just like it will in OneDrive for Business and SharePoint Online. So it's
right. Well, because I am seeing it before you, what I do like about it is that I don't have to highlight text and then click Control C or something like that to copy the link. It's smart in that you click it, it creates the link. You click on the link, it copies it to your clipboard, and it's ready to go.
Yeah, the thing that I would be interested in knowing, and maybe you know this since you've seen it, is what is this default? Because in the Admin Center, you're able to select what you want this default sharing to be for your tenant. I like it to be people who have, what is it? The one where people already have access. So I have to explicitly go in there and change it. For this one in the screenshot, for instance, it says only people in Contoso with a link can view and edit it. Basically, that means I'm sharing this content with everyone in the organization that has this link.
Correct, yeah.
I would rather it default to, if they already have permission, I'm going to share them with this link. And then again, that's just a default. You can change it with the drop down here. So that's what I've set it in my tenant. What is it? Have you seen how it acts on the desktop for the default there? Have you changed that at all?
Well, it's going to be driven by your settings in the site collection, as you say. I'm looking at it from two tenants, so my work tenant, my test or MVP tenant. I haven't done any special configuration on the MVP tenant, and often the default is the green one, which from memory is allowing you to create an anonymous guest link, which people can either use to view or edit. So you still got that control. But like you, I think that, well, I kind of miss having a link that you can actually tell what the path is to the content. The one that we see on screen, the blue one, which is a link that can be shared with anyone in the org, still has the site name and then this like document ID, so you can't really tell where it sits in the site.
Right.
But the one you're after is, the one you're after is the one where if you already have access to the site, that's the one that's going to show you the path to the document or item.
Right. And that's coming from me. That's a preference I like, is I want to know that URL coming from the background of when I'm trying to get a link to a document, a good amount of time, not all the time, and not even maybe a majority, but the link I'm trying to get is for things like a content editor web part, or trying to add that content to a page. And so I need the exact, I need that URL. I don't need the document ID. So in those special cases, it does not help me at all. I have to, just like you said, select the one that does show me the real link. I think this is one of those the times that we do have options, and what I would suggest for people to do is investigate what was best for their organization, what these defaults to be, and actually use that setting though to set the way they would want theirs to work. If you're not going to allow if you're in an organization that has problems sharing, for instance, with external people or whatever, or you really want to secure it down, then maybe you want to change that default sharing method. So,
yep, good feedback, good advice.
Okay, let's see. What is this one? Here's another one that was it's another one that was in mine that's not in yours. So this is the default sharing for Office 365 Group connected SharePoint Online sections. So currently, and it says it here, that the sharing setting is for site collections to allow sharing with external users that are already in your organization's directory. So if I've shared with an external user in a site or whatever, then the default setting for a 365 group is to allow that. But they're going to update this to actually not allow it if your tenant disallows guest members in Office 365 groups. So basically there was some feedback saying, hey, this is kind of circumventing what we want. We set the settings to say no guest members in Office 365 groups, but you're allowing it because they're already guests in my site. So what thoughts on this?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think if there's confusion about what the setting is and what it does, then it's a slight step backwards. Admins have come to a point where they understand what they want to do. They've gone through and made all these changes to settings and set up best practice and procedures for how to create sites to their needs. That a setting like this could get a little tricky, but the most secure option is supposed to be the best one. If you're presenting something that is not open to the world, and I guess it goes back to the comment about that last setting. If your default setting is, hey, share this link, it's going to be available to anyone, then that needs to change. So, yeah, that would be my thoughts on this one.
Yep, I agree. So moving right along, I have two more, and this one we've already talked about, but it's just now showing up in my tenant, which is the new OneDrive status, the sharing status indicator in the OneDrive Web. We talked about this last week, what OneDrive Web is, but it's just showing up. So we've made this emphasis before, but I think it's just for this one, I'm just going to say you need to be looking at your Msg Center to see what updates apply to you. So here's one that now is applying to me.
So the fun with that, Dan, is it looks like I'm receiving things before you. So going back to, I guess, my informal, what do you call it when you change someone's words and it's kind of like paraphrasing. Sachi would say cloud first, mobile first, and I would add US first and iOS first. But it seems in this case, it's New Zealand first. And then Central, maybe. I don't know. Where's your tenant?
Right. Yeah, and I'm okay with that as long as I'm being notified when it actually applies to me. What I'm not okay with is if they start rolling things out worldwide. In this case, it is rolling out to first release customers. And that's great and everything, but does that mean you are notified before me and we're both going to get it at the same time because we're first release? I don't like that. I want everyone to be notified at the same time. But I'm okay with different times being notified as long as it's because I'm going to get it at a different time.
Yeah. Hey, a side conversation from that. We were talking to Brian Levinson from the product group who manages this feature. So we've got some good news, Dan and I, about that. We are going to be able to talk to him and his principal engineer, wasn't it, Mike?
Yep. Mike.
Yeah. So they're gonna give us the more info and understanding around how updates are chosen and why something gets into the Msg Center and what's the pattern. So look forward to that, and we hope to interview him too at Microsoft Ignite later on in September.
That's right. That is correct.
Awesome.
So one more, and we've actually seen this before, but it's a different date. It's these small maintenance blips in Skype for Business. It rears its head again, so there's going to be another one that's going to be this weekend for me. This is not in your tenant, so obviously there's some updates that are happening in my region with Skype for Business.
Yeah, no blips over here.
Right, no blips. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, And it's around about time. We didn't do too bad this time. I know we didn't have a lot of commentary from the technical community, but I did want to finish off with something that some of the Regarding Office 365 team are involved in this week. So as you can see, I'm in Sydney. I'm usually from New Zealand, and I'm over for the Digital Workplace Conference. And
that's not the same place.
There, it's all about. Hey, are you saying that New Zealand's the same place as Australia?
I'm just playing the part of the typical
neighbors?
American.
Very good. Thank you, Daniel.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right. So back to the news. So Digital Workplace Conference this week, and so from a Regarding Office 365, what we're going to try and do is some blog posts. Going to be I didn't get to publishing it yet. I will publish it immediately after the show. List of sessions that we're going to be trying to cover. Laurie and Strand's here with me too. So we're going to try and, share from what we've learned. We're going to interview a few speakers, talk to a few delegates about what their views are on a digital workplace, keeping up to date, what sort of strategy they've got, and really just trying to cover the conference as a way of sharing what's relevant to the Regarding Office 365 audience. So keep an eye out for that blog post. And we'll continue to stream on Periscope when we do interviews as well. So that's my wind up for there. Thanks again, Dan, for joining me at probably coming up to 9:30 now. Am I right?
That's right. It's a little after 9:30. Sleepy time.
Yeah. And I'm going to go grab some lunch and potentially check back into my hotel. I think the room's ready now. Awesome. I should have brought a hat, dude. I've been sitting here preparing for the show, and I'm feeling the sun on the back of my head.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Carry a hat wherever you go.
All right.
That's the tip for tonight.
Yeah. Well, it's either that or I'll have a red back and then white face over here, so I'll should be entertaining.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the Regarding Office 365 for this week. The message that was, do follow us on Facebook. Tune into our blog posts at reoffice365.com. We're on Periscope. We're on YouTube as well, as you see. So thanks again for watching, and we'll tune out now. This takes a little bit trying to shuffle this around, but let's turn this all off.
Bye, everyone. I'll just wave while you do that.
Yeah. Keep waving. Keep waving.
Keep waving.
And waving and stopping stream. There goes YouTube.